The heat shimmered off the desert floor like liquid glass, and Ryan Beck knew he should have turned back an hour ago. But the stubborn streak that ran through him was as wide as the New Mexico territory itself. His horse, a reliable paint mare named Juniper, had been showing signs of fatigue for the last mile, and the canteens hanging from his saddle were getting dangerously light. It was August of 1878, and the sun had no mercy for man or beast in this unforgiving landscape between Columbus and the Mexican border. Ryan was riding back from a cattle sale in Deeming, his saddlebags heavy with the payment that would see his small ranch through another hard winter. At 26 years old, he had been working his land for nearly 5 years, scraping together a living from the dry earth and stubborn longhorns that somehow managed to survive on mesquite and determination. The ranch was modest, just a few hundred acres with a simple adobe house, a barn that leaned slightly to the east, and a well that thankfully still produced clean water even in the driest months. As Juniper crested a small rise, Ryan pulled up short. There, maybe 30 yards ahead, a figure lay crumpled on the ground near a cluster of creosote bushes. At first he thought it might be an animal, but as his eyes adjusted, he could make out the distinct shape of a human form. His hand instinctively moved to the rifle in his saddle boot, but something about the stillness of the figure made him pause. He dismounted slowly, his boots crunching on the sandy soil, and approached with caution. The person was a woman, he realized, dressed in traditional Apache clothing, a long skirt and a cotton blouse now stained with dust and sweat. She was lying on her side, her long black hair spread across her face, and she was not moving. Ryan's heart hammered in his chest as he knelt beside her, reaching out to gently brush the hair away from her face. She was young, perhaps in her early 20s, with high cheekbones and features that were beautiful even in distress. Her skin was hot to the touch, burning with fever, and her lips were cracked and bleeding from dehydration. A water skin lay empty beside her, and from the tracks in the sand, Ryan could see she had been walking for some time before collapsing. He did not hesitate. Whatever tensions existed between settlers and Apache in this territory, whatever dangers might come from helping her, none of that mattered in the face of another human being dying of thirst. Ryan hurried back to Juniper and retrieved one of his canteens. He returned to the woman and carefully lifted her head, tilting the canteen to her lips. At first, nothing happened, and for a terrible moment, Ryan thought she might be dead. Then her throat convulsed and she swallowed. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and unfocused, and she drank greedily. He pulled the canteen back, not wanting her to make herself sick. "Easy now," he said softly. "Not too fast." She looked at him with confusion and what might have been fear, but she was too weak to pull away. He gave her another careful drink, then wetted his bandana and pressed it gently against her forehead. "Can you tell me what happened?" he asked, knowing she might not understand English. The woman's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes rolled back, and she lost consciousness again. Ryan looked around at the empty landscape, calculating quickly. Columbus was still 2 hours away, but his ranch was closer, maybe an hour and a half if he pushed it. She needed shelter, water, and care, and she needed it soon. He made his decision. Lifting her carefully, he was struck by how light she was, how the fever had clearly been burning through her for days. He managed to get her onto Juniper's back, then swung up behind her, holding her steady against his chest. She was completely limp, her head lolling against his shoulder. The ride back to his ranch was the longest 90 minutes of Ryan's life. He kept one arm wrapped securely around the unconscious woman while the other held Juniper's reins, urging the tired horse forward. The sun beat down mercilessly, and he used his own body to shield the woman as much as possible from its brutal rays. When his ranch finally came into view, with its simple adobe walls and the windmill spinning lazily near the well, relief flooded through him. He guided Juniper straight to the house, dismounted carefully, and carried the woman inside. His home was sparse but clean, with a main room that served as kitchen and living area and a small bedroom off to the side. He laid her on his bed, the only real bed in the house, and immediately went to work. Ryan had experience with fever and dehydration. Life in the territory taught hard lessons, and he had seen enough people sicken and die to know what needed to be done. He brought fresh water from the well, cool and clean, and spent the next hour getting small amounts into her system. He bathed her face, her neck, and her arms with wet cloths, trying to bring down the fever. She stirred occasionally, mumbling words in Apache that he could not understand, but she did not fully wake. As the sun began to set, painting the New Mexico sky in shades of orange and purple, Ryan realized he had not eaten since morning. He made himself some beans and cornbread, eating mechanically while keeping watch over his unexpected guest. He had no idea who she was or how she had come to be alone and dying in the desert, but now that she was here, he would do everything he could to save her. Throughout the night, he dozed in the chair beside the bed, waking every hour or so to give her more water and check her fever. Slowly, gradually, it seemed to be breaking. Her skin grew less hot to the touch, and her breathing became deeper and more regular. By the time the first hints of dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, Ryan felt cautiously optimistic that she would survive. He was sitting in that chair, his head drooping with exhaustion, when the sound of horses brought him instantly alert. Multiple horses, approaching his ranch at a steady pace. Ryan moved to the window and looked out into the pre-dawn darkness. What he saw made his blood run cold. At least a dozen Apache warriors sat mounted in a semicircle around his house, their horses still as statues. They were armed with rifles, bows, and lances, and even in the dim light, Ryan could see they were painted for war. More warriors appeared from behind the barn and the shed, emerging from positions they must have taken in the darkness. His ranch was completely surrounded. A tall warrior in the center of the group urged his horse forward a few paces. He wore his hair long, with a red cloth band across his forehead, and his face was painted with dark lines. He held a rifle across his lap, and his eyes were fixed on Ryan's house with an intensity that was palpable even from a distance. Ryan's hand moved toward his rifle, then stopped. He was one man against at least 15 warriors, maybe more. If they wanted him dead, he would be dead, and nothing he could do would change that. Instead, he did something that went against every instinct of self-preservation he possessed. He opened his front door and stepped out onto the small porch, his hands clearly visible and empty. The warriors tensed, rifles lifting slightly, and Ryan felt his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. He swallowed hard and spoke, his voice carrying across the quiet morning air. "I mean no harm," he called out. "There is a woman inside. I found her in the desert, dying of thirst. I brought her here to help her." The tall warrior in the center stared at him for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he dismounted in one fluid motion and walked forward, his rifle now held ready in his hands. He moved with the deadly grace of a predator, and Ryan fought the urge to step back inside and bar the door. Instead, he held his ground. The warrior stopped a few feet from the porch. Up close, Ryan could see he was perhaps a few years older than himself, with scars on his arms that spoke of many battles. His eyes were hard and dark, filled with suspicion and barely contained rage. "You lie. the warrior said in heavily accented but clear English. White men do not help Apache. They kill Apache. I am telling you the truth, Ryan said, keeping his voice steady despite his fear. She was dying. I gave her water and brought her here. She is inside now on my bed. She is alive. If she is harmed, you die, the warrior said flatly. If you have touched her with dishonor, you die slowly. I have done nothing but try to save her life, Ryan said. You can come inside and see for yourself. The warrior studied him for another long moment, then gestured with his rifle. Show me. Ryan turned and walked back into his house, acutely aware of the warrior following behind him and of the rifles trained on his back from the other Apache outside. He led the way to the bedroom, where the woman still lay sleeping, her face peaceful now that the fever had broken. The warrior pushed past Ryan and knelt beside the bed. His face transformed in an instant, the hardness melting away to reveal deep concern and what might have been fear. He touched the woman's face gently, then her hand, and spoke to her in Apache, his voice soft and urgent. The woman's eyes fluttered open. She looked confused for a moment, then saw the warrior and smiled weakly. She spoke in Apache, her voice raspy but growing stronger. The warrior listened intently, occasionally glancing back at Ryan with an expression that was impossible to read. Finally, the woman finished speaking and closed her eyes again, clearly exhausted by even that small effort. The warrior stood and turned to face Ryan. The suspicion was still there, but the immediate threat of violence had diminished. She is my sister, the warrior said. Her name is Mayatala. She says you gave her water and saved her life. She says you did not harm her. Ryan felt relief wash over him. I only did what any decent person would do. She needed help. She was traveling with 3 other women to visit our mother's people across the border, the warrior continued. They were attacked by Mexican raiders 2 days ago. The others were killed. Maya escaped but lost her horse and all her supplies. She has been walking in the desert since then, trying to reach safety. I am sorry for your loss, Ryan said, and he meant it. The thought of what Maya had endured made his chest tight with sympathy. The warrior looked at him with new interest. I am called Nashota. My sister says you were kind to her. You gave her your bed. You cared for her fever through the night. This is not what we expect from white men. I am Ryan Beck. This is my ranch, and I believe that when someone needs help, you help them, regardless of who they are. Nashota considered this. You are alone here. Yes, it is just me and my horses and cattle. This is dangerous. Many people in Columbus do not like Apache. If they knew you helped my sister, they might come for you. Ryan had not thought that far ahead, but he realized Nashota was right. The tensions between settlers and Apache were high, and there were plenty of people who would see his actions as treason or worse. But looking back at Maya's sleeping form, he knew he would make the same choice again. She needed help, he repeated simply. Nashota studied him for another long moment, then did something unexpected. He extended his hand. You are a good man, Ryan Beck. You have honor. My people do not forget such things. Ryan shook his hand, feeling the warrior's grip strong and firm. Will you take her home now? She is too weak to travel yet. She needs more rest, more water, more food to build her strength. Nashota paused. If you are willing, we would ask that she stays here for a few days. I will leave 2 warriors nearby to watch over her and to protect you if anyone questions why she is here. Ryan had not expected this development, but he nodded. She can stay as long as she needs to. I will take care of her. I believe you, Nashota said. I will return in 3 days. If she is strong enough, then I will take her home. He looked at Ryan with an expression that might have been the beginning of respect. You have made a friend today, Ryan Beck. That is not something my people give lightly. With that, Neshoda returned outside and spoke to the other warriors in rapid Apache. Most of them mounted up and rode off, disappearing into the growing light of dawn. 2 warriors remained, moving their horses to a position near the barn where they could watch the approaches to the ranch without being too obtrusive. Ryan walked back into his bedroom and looked down at Maya. In the soft morning light filtering through the window, he could see her more clearly. She was striking, with delicate features and long lashes that lay against her cheeks as she slept. Her hands, he noticed, were small but strong, with calluses that spoke of hard work. He wondered what her life had been like, what she had experienced, what dreams she might have had before this terrible ordeal. He realized with a start that he was staring and turned away, embarrassed by his own thoughts. She was a guest in his home, someone who had nearly died and was now under his protection. Whatever strange flutter he had felt in his chest was completely inappropriate. Ryan went to the kitchen and started making breakfast. He cooked more than usual, thinking that Maya might wake hungry, and also wanting to bring something out to the 2 warriors keeping watch. He was not sure what the protocol was for feeding Apache warriors outside your barn, but it seemed like the decent thing to do. As the bacon sizzled in the pan and the coffee began to boil, Ryan heard a sound from the bedroom. He quickly moved to the doorway and saw Maya trying to sit up. She was clearly still weak, her arms shaking with the effort. "Hold on," Ryan said, moving to help her. He propped the pillows behind her back, supporting her until she was settled. "Do not try to do too much too fast. You have been very sick." Maya looked up at him with eyes that were clearer now, more aware. She spoke in Apache, her voice still rough but stronger than before. "I am sorry, I do not understand," Ryan said apologetically. Maya frowned in concentration, then spoke slowly in English. "You saved me, thank you." Her accent was thick but her words were clear and Ryan was surprised. "You speak English?" "Some. My brother taught me. He says it is important to understand the language of those who take our land." There was no accusation in her voice, just a statement of fact. "I am Ryan," he said, then felt foolish because Neshoda had surely told her his name already. "I am Maya," she replied. She looked around the room, taking in the simple furnishings, the clothes hanging on pegs, the rifle mounted above the door. "This is your house." "Yes, you are in my bed. I hope that is acceptable. I have no other place that would be comfortable for someone who is recovering." "You slept where?" "In the chair. It is fine. I have slept in worse places." Maya looked troubled. "This is not right. I take your bed. You should not have to sleep in a chair in your own home." "You needed it more than I did," Ryan said firmly. "Are you hungry? I have been cooking breakfast." At the mention of food, Maya's stomach growled audibly and a faint flush of color came to her cheeks. Ryan smiled. "I will take that as a yes. Let me bring you something." He returned to the kitchen and filled a plate with bacon, eggs, and bread, along with a cup of water. When he brought it to Maya, he saw she had been studying the room more carefully. Her eyes fell on a small wooden carving on the nightstand, a horse that Ryan had whittled during a long winter. "You made this?" she asked, picking it up carefully. "Yes, it is not very good. I do it to pass the time." "It is beautiful," Maya said softly. "You have skill." Ryan felt absurdly pleased by the compliment. He helped Maya position the plate on her lap, noticing how carefully she ate, as if her body was still remembering what food was. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, and Ryan found himself captivated by the simple act of watching her. "Your brother told me what happened," he said quietly. "I am very sorry about your friends." Maya's face clouded with pain. "They were my cousins. We grew up together. The men who attacked us, they did not care that we were only women traveling to see family. They wanted our horses and anything of value we carried. When we tried to run, they shot at us. I saw Desba fall from her horse. I saw Kimmy dragged from hers. I ran because Njoni told me to run, and then I heard her scream and I could not look back. Tears were running down her face now, and Ryan instinctively reached out to take her hand. She gripped it tightly, as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored. I ran until my horse threw me. I hit the ground hard, and when I got up, the horse was gone. I started walking. I thought I could make it to the border to my mother's people. But I had no water, no food, and the sun was so hot. I remember thinking I would die out there, and no one would ever know what happened to me. But you did not die, Ryan said gently. You survived. You were strong enough to keep walking until I found you. Because of you, Maya said, looking at him with those dark, expressive eyes. You saved my life when you did not have to. My brother says white men do not help Apache. He says they would rather see us dead, but you helped me. Why? Ryan thought about how to answer that. I do not judge a person by the color of their skin or the tribe they come from. I judge them by their actions and their character. When I saw you lying there, all I saw was someone who needed help. It never occurred to me not to help you. Maya studied his face as if trying to determine whether he was telling the truth. Whatever she saw there seemed to satisfy her, because she nodded slowly. You are not like other white men I have known. I suppose I should take that as a compliment. A small smile touched Maya's lips, the first Ryan had seen from her. It transformed her face, making her even more beautiful, and he felt that strange flutter in his chest again, stronger this time. Over the next few days, Maya grew steadily stronger. Ryan moved a cot into the main room and slept there, insisting that Maya keep the bed. He brought her meals, helped her walk when she was ready to move around, and spent hours talking with her as she recovered. He learned that she was 22 years old, the youngest of 4 children. Her mother had died 2 years ago, and her father had been killed by soldiers when she was a child. Neshoda, who was 7 years older than her, had raised her as much as anyone had. She told Ryan about her people, about the constant pressure from soldiers and settlers, about the struggle to maintain their way of life in the face of an encroaching world that seemed determined to erase them. In turn, Ryan told Maya about his life. He spoke of growing up in Texas, of losing his parents to fever when he was 18, of coming to New Mexico with nothing but a horse and a dream of building something of his own. He told her about the hard years of establishing his ranch, the battles with drought and disease and cattle thieves. He spoke of his loneliness, though he had not meant to, and was surprised by how easy it was to talk to her. The 2 Apache warriors who had stayed behind kept their distance but were clearly watching everything that happened. Ryan brought them food each day, leaving it near the barn, and they would take it after he left. He never spoke to them directly, but there was an understanding between them, a mutual respect that needed no words. On the 3rd day, as promised, Neshoda returned. He came alone this time, riding up to the ranch in the late afternoon. Ryan was outside working on a fence that had needed repairs for months, and Maya was sitting on the porch, her strength almost fully recovered. Neshoda dismounted and went straight to his sister. They spoke in Apache for several minutes, and Ryan stayed where he was, giving them privacy. He tried not to think about how empty the house would feel once Maya was gone, tried not to acknowledge the ache that had been growing in his chest at the thought of her leaving. Finally, Neshoda turned to Ryan and walked over to where he stood. My sister is much better. You have cared for her well. She is a strong woman. She did most of the healing herself. She speaks highly of you, Neshoda said, watching Ryan carefully. She says you have been kind and respectful. She says you have talked with her as an equal, not as a savage or a lesser person. This is rare. Ryan did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. She also says, Neshoda continued, and now there was something knowing in his eyes, that she does not want to leave. Ryan's heart jumped. She said that, not in those exact words, but I know my sister. I can see it in her eyes when she looks at you. Neshoda paused. I can also see how you look at her. Ryan felt heat rise to his face. I have done nothing inappropriate, I know. If you had, you would be dead already. Neshoda said this matter-of-factly. But there are feelings between you. This is obvious. She has been through a terrible trauma, Ryan said carefully. She is vulnerable right now. Any feelings she might have are probably just gratitude for being saved. And as for me, well, I would never presume to assume that she could feel anything for someone like me. Someone like you, Neshoda raised an eyebrow. You mean a good man who saved her life and treated her with honor. I mean a white man. A settler. Someone whose people have caused so much pain to hers. Neshoda was quiet for a long moment. This is true. Your people have taken our lands, killed our families, broken every treaty they have made. My sister has more reason than most to hate white men, but she does not hate you, Ryan Beck. In fact, I think she feels the opposite. What are you saying? I am saying that my sister is a grown woman who can make her own choices. If she wishes to stay here longer to see if what she feels is real, I will not stand in her way. But I need to know your intentions. Do you care for her? Ryan looked across the yard to where Maya sat on the porch. She was watching them, her expression unreadable. I barely know her. We have had 3 days together, most of which she spent recovering from nearly dying. How can I know what I feel? Sometimes 3 days is enough, Neshoda said. Sometimes you know in 3 minutes. The question is not whether you know for certain. The question is whether you want to find out. Did he want to find out? Ryan thought about how the house had felt different with Maya in it. How the silence had been replaced by conversation and laughter. How even the simple act of sharing a meal had felt significant. He thought about her smile, the way she listened when he spoke, the intelligence and strength he saw in her eyes. Yes, he said quietly. I want to find out. Neshoda nodded as if he had expected this answer. Then I will speak with my sister. If she chooses to stay, even for a while, there are things you must understand. There will be people who will not accept this. White people who will see her as a savage, Apache who will see you as an enemy. Even in my own tribe, there are those who will not be happy about this. I understand. I do not think you do, not fully, but you will learn. Neshoda walked back to his sister and spoke with her in Apache. Maya responded, her eyes moving to Ryan several times. Finally, Neshoda nodded and returned to his horse. She will stay, he said to Ryan, for 2 weeks. In that time, you will both know if this is real or just a reaction to extraordinary circumstances. I will return then, and she will make her decision. He swung up onto his horse. Treat her well, Ryan Beck. She is precious to me. I will, Ryan promised. As Neshoda rode away, Ryan walked slowly to the porch. Maya stood to meet him, and they looked at each other in silence for a moment. You want to stay? Ryan asked. Yes. Is that acceptable to you? More than acceptable. He hesitated. But Maya, you should know that I do not expect anything from you. You do not owe me anything just because I helped you. If you want to stay, it should be because you want to, not because you feel obligated. Maya stepped closer to him. I know the difference between obligation and desire, Ryan Beck. I am staying because when I think about leaving, my heart feels heavy. I am staying because I want to know you better. I am staying because when you look at me, I feel seen in a way I have not felt before. Ryan could barely breathe. I feel the same way. Then we will see where this leads, Maya said softly. Together. The 2 weeks that followed were the most extraordinary of Ryan's life. He and Maya fell into a natural rhythm, working side by side during the day and talking long into the nights. She helped him with chores around the ranch, proving to be skilled with horses and tireless in her efforts. He was impressed by her knowledge of the land, the way she could read signs in the desert that he would have missed. They rode out together to check on his cattle, and she showed him plants that could be used for medicine, places where water could be found even in the driest times. She taught him words in Apache, laughing at his pronunciation, and he taught her more English, amazed at how quickly she learned. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch and watch the sun set over the desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. They talked about everything and nothing, sharing stories from their lives, their hopes and dreams, their fears and sorrows. Ryan learned that Maya had always been curious about the world beyond her tribe, that she had taught herself to read from a book of poetry that a missionary had given her mother years ago. She still had it, she said, hidden among her things, and she would quote lines from it sometimes, her voice soft in the darkness. Maya learned that Ryan had once dreamed of being a teacher, that he loved books and learning, but had set those dreams aside to build a life in the harsh reality of the territory. She saw his collection of books, carefully preserved despite their wear, and understood that beneath the tough exterior of a rancher was a man who valued knowledge and beauty. As the days passed, the connection between them deepened. Ryan found himself thinking about Maya constantly when she was not near, and hurrying through his work so he could return to her side. He noticed everything about her, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, the sound of her laugh, the grace with which she moved. Maya felt the same pull. She had never expected to feel this way about anyone, much less a white man. But Ryan was different from any man she had known. He treated her as an equal, valued her opinions, and never made her feel less than. When he looked at her, she saw admiration and growing affection, but also respect. That respect meant more to her than she could express. One evening, about 10 days after Neshota had left, they were sitting by a small fire Ryan had built near the house. The night was cool, a welcome relief from the daytime heat, and the stars were brilliant overhead. Maya was wrapped in a blanket and Ryan sat close beside her, feeding small pieces of wood into the flames. "Tell me about your family," Maya said quietly. "You have told me how they died, but not what they were like when they were alive." Ryan was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. "My mother was gentle and kind. She loved music and she would sing while she worked. My father was stern but fair. He taught me to value honesty and hard work above all else. They loved each other very much. You could see it in the way they looked at each other, even after 20 years of marriage." "You want that," Maya said. It was not a question. "Yes, I have always wanted what they had. A partnership built on love and respect and commitment. Someone to share my life with, to work beside, to grow old with." He looked at Maya. "But I had started to think I would never find it. This is a hard land, and there are not many women who want to share that hardness." "I do not fear hard work," Maya said. "I have known nothing but hardship my entire life. My people are always moving, always struggling to survive. The life you have here, with land of your own and a house that does not need to be packed up and moved, this seems almost easy in comparison." "It has its own challenges," Ryan said. "The isolation, the constant worry about drought or disease or raiders, the knowledge that one bad year could destroy everything I have built. These things I understand," Maya said. "My people face these same fears every day. But you face them alone, and that is the greatest hardship of all." She reached out and took his hand, and Ryan felt the warmth of her touch spreading through him like fire. He turned to face her fully, and in the flickering light of the flames, he could see her face clearly, the beauty and strength written in every line. "Maya," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I know it has only been a short time, And I know there are 1,000 reasons why this should not work, but I need you to know that I am falling in love with you. I have been falling in love with you since that first day when you opened your eyes and looked at me. Every day since has only made me more certain. Maya's eyes were bright with unshed tears. In my tribe, we believe that souls recognize each other. We believe that some people are meant to find each other, that the spirits guide them together. When I was dying in the desert, I prayed to the spirits to help me. Then you came. You appeared like a vision and you saved me. I do not think this was an accident, Ryan. I think we were meant to find each other. Do you feel it too? Ryan asked, hardly daring to hope. Yes, Maya whispered. I feel it. When I am with you, I feel complete in a way I never have before. When I think about leaving, about going back to my people and never seeing you again, it feels like a part of me would be torn away. I love you, Ryan Beck. I do not know how it happened so fast, but I do. Ryan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, and she came willingly. They held each other in the firelight, hearts beating in synchrony, and Ryan felt a peace and rightness that he had never known before. This was what he had been searching for all his life. This was home. When they finally pulled back enough to look at each other, Ryan cupped Maya's face gently in his hands. I want you to stay. Not for 2 weeks, not for 2 months, but forever. I want you to be my wife if you will have me. I know it will not be easy. I know we will face challenges and prejudice and hardship, but I believe we can face anything together. Are you asking me to marry you? Maya asked, her voice trembling. Yes. I know I should probably wait, court you properly, give you time to be certain, but life is too short and too uncertain. I almost lost you before I ever found you. I do not want to waste a single day. Marry me, Maya. Build a life with me here. Let us face whatever comes together. Maya smiled through her tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Ryan kissed her then, a gentle, reverent kiss that held all the emotion he could not find words for. Maya kissed him back, her arms wrapping around his neck, and for a long moment, nothing else existed but the two of them and the love that had blossomed so unexpectedly between them. When they finally separated, both were breathing hard, eyes shining with joy. But then reality began to creep back in, and Maya's expression grew concerned. My brother, she said. He must give his permission. Without his blessing, I cannot marry you. In my culture, family approval is essential. Then we will ask him when he returns, Ryan said. He seems like a reasonable man. Surely he will see that we care for each other. He is reasonable, but he is also protective, and there are others in our tribe who will not be happy about this. Some will see it as a betrayal. And there will be people in Columbus who will condemn me for marrying an Apache woman, Ryan said. We knew this would not be easy, but I believe love is worth fighting for. If we have to face opposition, we will face it together. Maya nodded, drawing strength from his certainty. Together, she agreed. The remaining days before Neshota's return passed in a blur of happiness and anticipation. Ryan and Maya made plans for their future, talking about how they would expand the ranch, what they would plant in a garden near the house, how many children they hoped to have someday. They were building a dream together, and every conversation, every shared moment made that dream more real. They were careful to remain proper, with Maya sleeping in the bedroom and Ryan on his cot in the main room, though it grew increasingly difficult to say good night and part. They would stand in the doorway, holding hands, stealing kisses, reluctant to separate even for sleep. On the morning of the 14th day, Neshota arrived as promised. He came with 2 other warriors, older men with weathered faces and watchful eyes. Ryan and Maya met them in the yard, standing side by side, their hands clasped together. Neshota took one look at them and sighed. So it is as I thought. You have decided. Yes, Maya said, speaking in Apache. Ryan could not understand the words, but he could hear the determination in her voice. She spoke for several minutes, gesturing to Ryan, to the ranch, to herself. The two older warriors listened impassively, their faces revealing nothing. When Maya finished, Neshoda responded, his tone serious. There was a long back and forth, with the older warriors occasionally interjecting comments. Ryan stood there, feeling helpless and frustrated that he could not understand what was being said about his own future. Finally, Neshoda turned to Ryan and switched to English. "My sister tells me you have asked her to marry you." "Yes. I love her and she loves me. We want to build a life together. She says you understand this will be difficult, that there will be opposition from both our peoples." "I understand, but I believe what we have is worth any difficulty." One of the older warriors spoke in Apache, his tone skeptical. Neshoda translated. "He asks what you can offer my sister. You are one man with a small ranch. How will you protect her? How will you provide for her? How will you ensure her safety when there are those who would harm her for being Apache?" Ryan looked the warrior directly in the eye as he answered. "I offer her my home, my protection, and my heart. I will work every day to provide for her. I will stand between her and anyone who would harm her, even if it costs me my life. I will honor her, respect her, and love her until my last breath. I cannot promise that life will be easy, but I can promise that she will never face it alone." Neshoda translated, and the warrior nodded slowly, seeming satisfied if not entirely convinced. The other older warrior spoke, and Neshoda translated again. "He says that in the old ways, a man who wishes to marry must prove himself worthy. He must show he can provide, that he has courage and honor. You have shown honor in saving my sister's life and treating her well. But can you provide? Can you support a wife and eventually children?" "I can," Ryan said firmly. "My ranch is small but profitable. I have money saved and I have plans to expand. I am a hard worker and I know this land. We will not be rich, but we will never go hungry." The two warriors conferred with Neshoda in Apache. The discussion went on for some time, and Ryan felt Maya's hand tighten in his. She was nervous, he realized, truly worried that they might not give their approval. Finally, Neshoda turned back to them. "The elders have concerns. They worry about my sister's safety, about whether she will be accepted in the white world, about whether you truly understand what you are asking of her. She will be cut off from much of her tribe. There are those among our people who will see this marriage as a betrayal, who will turn their backs on her." "I understand," Maya said quietly, "but I have made my choice. I love Ryan and I want to be his wife. I will always be Apache, that will never change, but I can be Apache and be his wife too." Neshoda looked at his sister with a mixture of sadness and pride. "You have always been the brave one. Very well. I give my permission, and the elders, while not happy, will not stand in your way. But there are conditions." "What conditions?" Ryan asked. "You will be married in both traditions, Apache and white. You will respect my sister's heritage and allow her to practice her customs. Any children you have will be taught both ways so they know where they come from. And you will allow us to visit, to maintain the connection between my sister and her people. If you agree to these conditions, you have our blessing." "I agree to all of it," Ryan said without hesitation. "I would never ask Maya to give up who she is. I want her to stay connected to her family and her culture, and our children will be proud of both their heritages." Neshoda extended his hand and Ryan shook it firmly. "Then you have my blessing, Ryan Beck. Take care of my sister, make her happy. If you fail in this, I will know, and I will come back." "I will not fail," Ryan promised. The Apache wedding ceremony took place that very afternoon. Neshoda and the two elders performed the traditional rituals, speaking words in Apache that Ryan did not understand but felt the weight of. He and Meyer exchanged gifts, as was the custom. He gave her a blanket he had bought in town months ago, finely woven and warm. She gave him a small leather pouch that contained herbs and stones, protection and luck, she said. They drank from the same cup, ate from the same bowl, and Neshoda tied a cord around their joined hands, binding them together. When it was done, Neshoda declared them married in the eyes of the Apache people, and the elders, while still somber, nodded their approval. "Now you must go to the White Town and have their ceremony as well," Neshoda said. "Only then will you be fully married in both worlds." "We will go to Columbus tomorrow," Ryan said. "We will find a preacher and be married in the church." After the ceremony, Neshoda and the elders prepared to leave. Neshoda embraced his sister, holding her close and speaking quietly in Apache. Maya cried, clinging to him, and Ryan felt the weight of what she was giving up. She was choosing a life with him over the life she had always known, and that sacrifice was not a small thing. When Neshoda finally released her, he turned to Ryan. "I meant what I said. Take care of her. She is the best of us." "I know," Ryan said, "and I will." As the three Apache rode away, Maya stood beside Ryan, watching until they disappeared into the distance. Tears streamed down her face, and Ryan pulled her close. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. "It is not too late to change your mind. You could go with them." Maya turned to face him, wiping her tears away. "I am sure. My place is here now with you. It hurts to say goodbye to my old life, but I am saying hello to a new one. A better one." Ryan kissed her forehead. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this choice." The next morning they set out for Columbus. The town was about 3 hours away, and they made the journey on horseback, with Maya riding behind Ryan on Juniper, her arms wrapped around his waist. As they rode, Ryan found himself both excited and apprehensive about what they would face in town. Columbus was a small settlement, with a main street lined with wooden buildings, a general store, a saloon, a hotel, and a white-painted church at the far end. The town had perhaps 200 residents, mostly ranchers and farmers and the people who served them. Ryan did not come to town often, preferring the solitude of his ranch, but he knew enough people to get by. As they rode down the main street, heads turned. People stopped what they were doing to stare at the sight of Ryan Beck with an Apache woman riding behind him. He could hear the whispers starting, could see the shock and disapproval on many faces. Maya felt it too. Her arms tightened around him, and he reached down to pat her hand reassuringly. They stopped in front of the church and dismounted. Ryan tied Juniper to the rail and took Maya's hand. "Ready?" She nodded, squaring her shoulders. Together they walked up the steps and into the church. Reverend Thomas was inside, an older man with white hair and kind eyes. He looked up from the Bible he was reading and smiled when he saw Ryan, but the smile faltered when he saw Maya. "Ryan Beck," the Reverend said, standing. "It has been a while since I have seen you in church. And who is this?" "This is Maya Tala," Ryan said. "She is my wife, married by Apache tradition yesterday. We are here to ask you to marry us in the Christian tradition as well, so that our union is recognized by both our peoples." Reverend Thomas looked from Ryan to Maya and back again, processing this information. "Your wife. Ryan, do you understand what you are asking? An Apache woman." "I understand perfectly. I love her and she loves me. We wish to be married in the sight of God." The Reverend studied them for a long moment. "How did you meet?" Ryan told him the story about finding Maya in the desert, saving her life, the 2 weeks they had spent getting to know each other, the love that had grown between them. As he spoke, he kept hold of Maya's hand, drawing strength from her presence. When he finished, Reverend Thomas was quiet. Finally, he said, "The Bible teaches that love is patient and kind, that it bears all things and endures all things. It also teaches that all people are equal in the eyes of God, that there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, but that all are one in Christ Jesus. If you truly love this woman and if she truly loves you, then I see no reason why I should not marry you." Relief flooded through Ryan. "Thank you, Reverend. But I must warn you," the Reverend continued, "there will be people in this town who will not accept this. Some will turn their backs on you. Some may even become hostile. Are you prepared for that?" "We are," Ryan said firmly. "Very well then. We can perform the ceremony now if you wish, though I should tell you that it is customary to have witnesses." As if on cue, the church door opened and an older woman walked in. She was perhaps 60, with gray hair pulled back in a severe bun and sharp blue eyes. She stopped when she saw Maya, her expression hardening. "Reverend Thomas," she said coldly, "I came to bring you the flowers for Sunday's service, but I see you are busy consorting with savages." "Mrs. Patterson," the Reverend said, his tone reproachful, "that is not how we speak of God's children in this church." "God's children?" Mrs. Patterson looked at Maya with undisguised contempt. "The Apache are heathens and murderers. They have killed good Christian people, burned homes, stolen cattle. And now Ryan Beck brings one into our church and expects us to accept it." "I expect you to show basic human decency," Ryan said, his voice tight with anger. "Maya is not responsible for the actions of others any more than you are responsible for every crime committed by a white person. Judge her by who she is, not by what she is." "Who she is? She is a savage, and you are a fool for bringing her here." Mrs. Patterson turned to the Reverend. "If you perform this unholy union, there will be consequences. There are many in this town who will not stand for it. Then they will have to answer to their consciences and to God," Reverend Thomas said calmly. "I will not turn away two people who love each other and wish to be married in this church. If you cannot accept that, Mrs. Patterson, then perhaps you should leave." Mrs. Patterson stared at him in shock, then at Ryan and Maya with pure hatred. "You will regret this," she hissed and stormed out of the church. In the silence that followed, Ryan felt Maya trembling beside him. He looked down and saw that she was trying not to cry, her jaw clenched tight. "I am sorry you had to hear that," Reverend Thomas said gently to Maya. "Unfortunately, Mrs. Patterson's views are shared by many, though few are so rude as to voice them so directly. But please know that they are not shared by everyone. There are good people in this town who believe in justice and equality, even if they are sometimes outnumbered by the ignorant." "Thank you, Reverend," Maya said quietly, her English careful. "I understand that this is difficult for many people, but I love Ryan and I will be a good wife to him." "I have no doubt of that, my dear." The Reverend smiled at her. "Now then, let us proceed with the ceremony. We may lack witnesses, but God is witness enough." The ceremony was simple but beautiful. Reverend Thomas spoke about love and commitment, about the sacred bond of marriage, about facing the challenges of life together. He read from Corinthians, the famous passage about love being patient and kind, and Ryan felt the words settling into his heart like a benediction. When it came time for the vows, Ryan spoke his clearly and firmly, his eyes never leaving Maya's face. "I, Ryan Beck, take you, Maya Tala, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live." Maya repeated the vows in English, her accent thick but her voice steady. "I, Maya Tala, take you, Ryan Beck, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for as long as we both shall live." Ryan had brought a simple gold band, purchased months ago on a whim when he had seen it in the general store, never imagining he would actually have someone to give it to. He slipped it onto Maya's finger, and she looked at it with wonder, tears shining in her eyes. "By the power vested in me by the territory of New Mexico and the grace of God," Reverend Thomas said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Ryan, you may kiss your bride." Ryan cupped Maya's face in his hands and kissed her gently. She kissed him back, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. They were married, truly and completely, in both the Apache way and the white way. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. When they left the church, hand in hand, they found a small crowd had gathered outside. Word had spread quickly, and curious townspeople had come to see if the rumors were true. Most looked shocked or disapproving, but Ryan also saw a few friendly faces. Old Tom from the livery stable gave him a nod and a small smile. Sarah Miller, who ran the boarding house, looked thoughtful rather than judgmental. And young David Cooper, who worked at the general store, actually called out, "Congratulations, Ryan." But there were hostile faces too. A group of men stood outside the saloon, their expressions hard. Ryan recognized them as some of the rougher elements in town, men who drank too much and looked for trouble. One of them, a heavy-set man named Carl Hudson, spat on the ground as Ryan and Maya passed. "Indian lover," Carl muttered, loud enough to be heard. Ryan stopped and turned to face him. "You have something to say to me, Carl." Carl straightened, encouraged by his friends behind him. "Yeah, I do. What the hell are you thinking, Beck? Marrying a squaw? Have you lost your mind?" "I have married the woman I love," Ryan said evenly. "And if you ever call her that word again, or any other disrespectful name, we are going to have a serious problem." "You threatening me?" Carl took a step forward. "I am making a promise," Ryan said, his voice cold. "My wife deserves respect. If you cannot give it to her, then stay away from both of us." Carl looked like he wanted to say more, but one of his friends pulled him back. "Let it go, Carl. It is not worth it." Ryan turned away and led Maya to where Juniper was tied. He could feel the eyes of the town on them as they mounted up and rode away. Maya was quiet, her body tense behind him. Once they were out of town, Ryan stopped the horse and turned in the saddle to look at her. "Are you all right?" "I knew it would be like this," Maya said. "But knowing and experiencing are different things." The hatred in their eyes, in their voices, it reminded me of every bad encounter I have had with white people. The soldiers who killed my father, the settlers who called us savages, the traitors who cheated us. She looked at Ryan. "You face that now too because of me. They see you differently now. You heard that man call you an Indian lover. That is what you are to them now, someone to despise." "I do not care what they think," Ryan said fiercely. "You are worth any amount of scorn they can heap on me. And for every person like Carl Hudson, there will be others who judge us by our character, not by prejudice. We just have to be patient and prove them wrong." Maya leaned forward and rested her forehead against his back. "I hope you are right." They rode back to the ranch in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, the sun was beginning to set, painting the adobe walls in shades of gold. Ryan helped Maya down from the horse and held her close. "Welcome home, Mrs. Beck," he said softly. Maya smiled, the first real smile since they had left for town. "Mrs. Beck, I am still getting used to that name." "You have the rest of your life to get used to it," Ryan said and kissed her. That night, for the first time, Maya came to Ryan in the darkness. He was lying on his cot in the main room, staring at the ceiling and thinking about the day, when he heard the soft sound of footsteps. Maya appeared in the doorway to the bedroom, wrapped in a blanket, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Ryan," she said quietly. I do not want to sleep apart from you anymore. We are married now. I want to be with my husband." Ryan stood and went to her, his heart pounding. "Are you sure?" "I am sure." She took his hand and led him back into the bedroom. They lay down together on the bed, and Ryan wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. They did not make love that night, both too exhausted emotionally from the day's events, but they held each other, and that was enough. Maya fell asleep with her head on Ryan's chest. His heart beat steady under her ear, and Ryan stayed awake for a long time, marveling at the feeling of having her in his arms, of knowing that she was his wife and he was her husband. In the days and weeks that followed, Ryan and Maya settled into married life. They developed routines, working together to maintain the ranch, care for the animals, and improve their home. Maya proved to be an invaluable partner, skilled in ways Ryan had not expected. She could break a wild horse with patience and gentle persistence. She could track game with ease and bring home rabbits and quail for dinner. She showed Ryan how to read the weather in the behavior of animals and the feel of the wind. In turn, Ryan taught Maya about running a ranch, about managing money and keeping records, about dealing with buyers and negotiating prices. She was a quick learner, and he was continually impressed by her intelligence and adaptability. They made improvements to the ranch. Ryan built a larger chicken coop, and Maya filled it with hens that soon provided eggs every morning. They planted a garden with vegetables and herbs, combining plants that Maya knew with seeds Ryan had bought in town. The garden flourished under Maya's care, and soon they had fresh food to supplement their diet. As autumn approached, they made a trip to Deeming to buy supplies. Ryan deliberately avoided Columbus, not wanting to subject Maya to more of the hostility they had experienced on their wedding day. In Deeming, they found a more diverse population, with Mexican, Apache, and white people all living and working together in relative harmony. The merchants were friendly, and while there were still some curious stares at an Apache woman shopping with a white man, there was far less hostility. Maya bought fabric to make new clothes, and Ryan bought tools and supplies for the ranch. They walked through the town together, hand in hand, and for the first time since their wedding, Maya seemed to relax in public. She laughed at something Ryan said, and he realized how much he loved the sound of her laughter, how it made everything brighter. On the way back to the ranch, they stopped to rest near a small creek. They sat together on the bank, their feet in the cool water, and shared the sandwiches Maya had packed. "I have been thinking," Maya said, "about what we talked about before, about having children." Ryan looked at her, his heart skipping. "And I want to have your children, Ryan. I want to build a family with you. Not right away perhaps, but soon. I want our home to be filled with the sound of children's voices and laughter." Ryan pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. "I want that too, a whole house full of children if we are blessed with them." "Boys and girls," Maya said, smiling. "Strong and smart, knowing both the Apache way and the white way, they will be bridges between two worlds. They will be extraordinary like their mother." Maya laughed and splashed water at him. "And stubborn like their father." They returned to the ranch as the sun was setting, both filled with hope for the future. But as they approached the house, they saw something that made Ryan's blood run cold. Smoke was rising from behind the barn. He urged Juniper into a gallop, and as they rounded the barn, they saw flames licking up the side of the chicken coop. Ryan leaped from the horse and ran for the well, grabbing buckets. Maya was right behind him, and together they fought the fire, drawing water and throwing it on the flames. It took nearly an hour, but they finally got the fire under control. The chicken coop was badly damaged, though most of the structure remained standing. The chickens had scattered in panic, and it would take time to round them all up. But what worried Ryan more than the damage was how the fire had started. "Look at this," Maya said, kneeling near where the fire had begun. She picked up a piece of cloth, charred but still recognizable. This was soaked in something. Kerosene, I think. This fire was set deliberately. Ryan felt rage building in his chest. Someone had come to his ranch while they were gone and tried to burn down his property, and he had a pretty good idea who it might have been. "Carl Hudson," he said through clenched teeth, "or one of his friends from town." "What will you do?" Maya asked. "I am going to Columbus tomorrow, and I am going to report this to the sheriff. This is arson, and it is a crime. Ryan, maybe we should just let it go. If you accuse them, it will only make things worse. And if I do nothing, they will think they can do whatever they want." "No, Maya. I will not let them terrorize us. We have a right to live here in peace, and I am going to make sure that right is protected." The next morning, Ryan rode to Columbus alone, despite Maya's protests that she should come with him. He found Sheriff Tom Morrison in his office, a tired-looking man in his 50s who had been keeping the peace in Columbus for nearly a decade. Ryan explained what had happened, showing the sheriff the charred cloth that smelled of kerosene. Morrison listened carefully, his expression growing more serious as Ryan spoke. "You have any idea who might have done this?" the sheriff asked. "I have suspicions, but no proof. Carl Hudson and his friends have made it clear they do not approve of my marriage. They might have decided to do something about it." Morrison sighed and leaned back in his chair. "Ryan, I am going to be straight with you. Even if Carl did do this, it is going to be nearly impossible to prove. He will have an alibi, his friends will back him up, and without witnesses or solid evidence, my hands are tied." "So you are saying I should just accept that someone tried to burn down my property?" "I am saying that the law has limitations, especially when it comes to crimes against someone who has married an Apache woman. There are people in this town who think what happened to you is justice, not a crime." Ryan felt his anger flaring. "Are you one of them, Sheriff?" "No," Morrison said firmly. "I think what happened is wrong, and if I could prove who did it, I would arrest them. But I am also being realistic about what I can actually do. I will talk to Carl, put a scare into him, make it clear that any further incidents will be investigated thoroughly. But beyond that, I cannot promise much." "That is not good enough," Ryan said. "It is what you have got," Morrison replied. "Look, Ryan, I respect you. You have always been a straight shooter and you work hard, but you have made a choice that a lot of people in this town cannot accept. Right or wrong, that is the reality. My advice: keep your head down, take care of your ranch, and try to avoid trouble. Eventually, people will move on to something else to gossip about." Ryan left the sheriff's office feeling frustrated and helpless. He knew Morrison was probably right, that there was little that could be done legally, but that did not make it any easier to accept. On his way out of town, he stopped at the general store to buy some wire and nails to repair the chicken coop. David Cooper, the young man who had congratulated him on his wedding, was working behind the counter. He greeted Ryan with a smile. "Heard you had some trouble at your ranch," David said quietly. "Fire, was it? News traveled fast in a small town." "Yes, someone said it deliberately." David's expression turned angry. "That is wrong, Ryan. I do not care what anyone says, that is just wrong. If I hear anything about who might have done it, I will let you know." "I appreciate that, David." As David was wrapping Ryan's purchases, he hesitated, then said, "There is something you should know. Carl Hudson has been talking around town, saying that you and your wife are not welcome here, that people should refuse to do business with you. Some folks are listening to him." "And you?" Ryan asked. "Me? I think you should be able to marry whoever you want, and I think people who burn other people's property are cowards." David handed Ryan his package. "You let me know if you need anything. I will always do business with you." Ryan felt a wave of gratitude. "Thank you, David. That means more than you know." As Ryan rode back to the ranch, he thought about what David had said. It was a reminder that not everyone in Columbus was against them, that there were good people who believed in fairness and justice. He needed to hold on to that, to remember that the Carl Hudsons of the world did not represent everyone. When he arrived home, he found Maya had already started repairs on the chicken coop and had managed to round up most of the scattered hens. She looked up as he approached, concern clear in her eyes. "What did the sheriff say?" Ryan dismounted and told her about his conversation with Morrison, and then about his encounter with David. Maya listened quietly, and when he finished, she moved into his arms. "We will be all right," she said. "As long as we have each other, we will be all right." Ryan held her close, drawing strength from her conviction. "Yes, we will." As winter approached, Ryan and Maya focused on preparing the ranch for the cold months ahead. They repaired the chicken coop, making it stronger than before. They gathered firewood and stacked it against the side of the house. They salted and dried meat, stored vegetables from the garden, and made sure they had enough supplies to last through the worst of the weather. Maya showed Ryan how to make traditional Apache preparations for winter, teaching him to preserve food in ways he had not known. She made pemmican from dried meat and berries, a concentrated food that would keep for months. She showed him how to make warm clothing from animal hides, stitching a warm coat for him lined with rabbit fur. In return, Ryan taught Maya to read and write English. She already knew a little, but he helped her improve, spending evenings by the fire with books and paper. She was an eager student, soaking up knowledge like parched earth soaking up rain. She especially loved poetry, and they would read to each other, taking turns with different verses. One evening in late November, as they sat by the fire reading, Maya suddenly put down her book and placed a hand on her stomach. Ryan noticed and looked at her with concern. "Are you all right?" Maya looked up at him, her eyes shining. "I think I am pregnant." Ryan felt the world stop. "Pregnant? Are you sure?" "I am late, and I have been feeling sick in the mornings. I know the signs. My mother told me about them before she died." Maya smiled, radiant with joy. "We are going to have a baby, Ryan." Ryan let out a whoop of joy and pulled Maya into his arms, spinning her around. She laughed, holding on to him, and when he set her down, he kissed her with all the love and happiness he felt. "A baby," he said in wonder. "We are going to be parents. Are you happy?" Maya asked. "Happy? I am overjoyed. I cannot believe it, our child." He placed his hand gently on her stomach. "Our baby." That night, they lay in bed talking about the future. They discussed names, nursery plans, what kind of parents they wanted to be. Maya talked about the Apache traditions she wanted to pass on to their child, the stories and songs and customs. Ryan talked about teaching their child to read, to love learning, to be kind and honest and brave. "Boy or girl, it does not matter," Ryan said. "I will love them the same." "I hope it is a boy," Maya said. "A strong son with your determination and my people's resilience. And if it is a girl, then she will be fierce and beautiful, and we will teach her that she can do anything." Winter came, and with it, snow that blanketed the ranch in white. Ryan worked hard to keep the animals fed and cared for, breaking ice on the water troughs each morning, making sure the barn was secure against the wind. Maya, despite her pregnancy, worked alongside him, refusing to be treated as fragile. "Apache women work until the day they give birth," she told Ryan when he tried to get her to rest. "I am strong. Our baby is strong. Do not worry so much." But Ryan did worry. He worried about the lack of a doctor nearby, about what would happen when it came time for the baby to be born, about whether he would be able to protect and provide for his growing family. Maya sensed his concern and did her best to reassure him. Women have been having babies for thousands of years, she reminded him. I know what to do. Apache women help each other during birth. When the time comes, I will need you to send for my brother. He will bring women from the tribe who can help. Of course, Ryan said. Whatever you need. On a cold day in January, Neshoda arrived unexpectedly at the ranch. Ryan saw him approaching and went out to meet him, concerned that something might be wrong. Neshoda, what brings you here in the middle of winter? I needed to check on my sister, Neshoda said, dismounting. I heard rumors that there was trouble, that someone attacked your ranch. How did you hear that? We hear many things. Apache may be pushed to the margins, but we still have eyes and ears everywhere. Is it true? Ryan told him about the fire, about the tensions in Columbus, about the ongoing hostility they faced. Neshoda listened with a darkening expression. These white men who attack you, I could deal with them, Neshoda said, his hand moving to the knife at his belt. No, Ryan said firmly. That would only make things worse. It would give them an excuse to retaliate and Maya could be hurt. We have to find another way. What way? You said yourself the law will not help you. The law may not help, but time might. People will get used to us eventually. They will see that we are just a family trying to live our lives. Their hatred will fade. You have more faith in white people than I do, Neshoda said darkly. Maya appeared at the door of the house, and when she saw her brother, she cried out in joy and hurried to him. Neshoda embraced her, speaking rapidly in Apache, and she responded in kind. Ryan gave them space, understanding they needed time alone. When they finally came inside, Neshoda looked around the house with interest. He saw the repairs Ryan had made, the supplies stored for winter, the obvious care that had gone into preparing the home. His expression softened slightly. You have done well, he said to Ryan. My sister is healthy and happy. I can see that you care for her. I love her, Ryan said simply. She tells me she is pregnant. Yes, the baby should come in late spring or early summer. Neshoda looked at his sister with a mixture of pride and concern. This child will be part of two worlds. That is a difficult path, but a meaningful one, Maya said. Our child will be a bridge, just as I am becoming a bridge. Things are changing, Neshoda. The old ways are passing. Maybe children like ours will help create a new way, one where Apache and white people can live together in peace. That is a beautiful dream, Neshoda said. I hope you are right. He stayed for 2 days, helping Ryan with work around the ranch and spending time with his sister. On the morning he was to leave, he pulled Ryan aside. I am still not comfortable with all of this, he admitted. My sister married to a white man, living in a white man's world. But I can see that you love her and that she loves you. That is what matters most. He paused. When the baby comes, send word. I will bring women from the tribe to help with the birth, as Maya requested, and I will bring a gift for my niece or nephew. Thank you, Neshoda. That means a great deal to both of us. After Neshoda left, the winter settled in more seriously. There were days when the snow was so deep that Ryan could barely open the door, when the wind howled around the house like a living thing. But inside, they were warm and safe, with plenty of food and each other's company. Maya's pregnancy progressed, her belly growing round and full. Ryan found himself constantly amazed by the changes in her body, by the knowledge that their child was growing inside her. He would place his hand on her stomach and feel the baby kick, and the wonder of it never faded. As winter gave way to spring, the snow melted and the desert began to bloom. Wildflowers appeared in impossible profusion, turning the usually brown landscape into a riot of color. Maya's spirits lifted with the changing season, and she spent hours outside, soaking up the sun and fresh air. In April, Ryan had to make a trip to Deeming to sell some cattle. He was reluctant to leave Maya, who was now very pregnant, but the trip could not be put off any longer. They needed the money to buy supplies for the baby and to see them through the summer. "I will be fine," Maya assured him. "The baby is not due for at least another month. You will be back in 3 days. Nothing will happen in 3 days." Reluctantly, Ryan left. He drove the small herd of cattle to Deeming, negotiated a good price, and turned right around to head back home. The trip took 4 days instead of 3 because one of the cattle broke away and had to be retrieved, and Ryan spent the entire time anxious to get back to Maya. When he finally arrived at the ranch, he found Maya in labor. She was in the bedroom, pacing back and forth, her face drawn with pain. When she saw Ryan, relief flooded her features. "The baby is coming," she said, her voice tight. "It started this morning. I sent word to Neshota, but he has not arrived yet." Ryan felt panic rising in his chest. "What do I do? How do I help?" "Water," Maya said. "I need clean water, lots of it, and cloths, and you need to stay calm. Women have been having babies since the beginning of time. We will manage this." Ryan hurried to follow her instructions, heating water on the stove and gathering every clean cloth he could find. Maya labored for hours, walking when she could, resting when she had to, breathing through the contractions with a focus and determination that awed Ryan. As the sun began to set, painting the room in golden light, Neshota arrived with 2 Apache women. They immediately took charge, speaking to Maya in Apache, examining her, and preparing for the birth. Ryan was gently but firmly ushered out of the bedroom. He spent the next hours pacing the main room, his heart in his throat every time he heard Maya cry out. It was the longest night of his life, filled with fear and worry and helpless waiting. Finally, as the first light of dawn was breaking through the windows, he heard a new sound. The thin, reedy cry of a newborn baby. Ryan stood frozen, his heart pounding. One of the Apache women emerged from the bedroom, smiling. She spoke in Apache, and though Ryan could not understand the words, he understood the meaning. The baby was here. And from the woman's expression, everything was all right. A moment later, Neshota came out. "You have a son," he said, his own face split by a huge grin. "A healthy, strong boy, and my sister is well. You can go in now." Ryan practically ran into the bedroom. Maya was lying in the bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a small bundle wrapped in blankets. When she saw Ryan, she smiled. "Come meet your son," she said softly. Ryan approached on shaking legs and looked down at the baby in Maya's arms. He was tiny and red and perfect, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that were trying to focus. As Ryan watched, the baby yawned, revealing pink gums, and Ryan felt his heart expand to a size he had not known was possible. "He is beautiful," Ryan whispered. "You are both beautiful." "Hold him," Maya said, carefully transferring the baby into Ryan's arms. Ryan held his son with extreme care, terrified he might break something, but the baby seemed content, snuggling into his father's chest. Ryan felt tears running down his face, overwhelmed by the weight and wonder of this new life. "What should we name him?" Maya asked. They had discussed names endlessly over the winter, but now that the moment was here, Ryan found himself hesitant. "What do you think?" "I think we should give him 2 names, Maya said. "An Apache name and a white name so he belongs to both worlds. For his white name, I would like to call him Robert after your father." Ryan's throat tightened with emotion. He would have been honored, and his Apache name, Takoda, Maya said. "It means friend to everyone. I want our son to be someone who builds bridges between people, who makes friends of enemies." "Robert Takoda Beck," Ryan said, testing the name. "It is perfect." The Apache women stayed for a week, helping Maya recover and teaching Ryan how to care for a newborn. Neshoda stayed as well, sitting beside his sister's bed for hours, telling her stories and making her laugh. He looked at his nephew with undisguised adoration, holding the tiny boy with surprising gentleness. "He has strength," Neshoda said. "I can feel it. He will grow up to be a great man." "He will grow up to be a good man," Maya corrected. "That is more important than greatness." As the weeks passed, Ryan and Maya settled into the exhausting routine of new parents. Robert was a good baby, healthy and growing fast, but he still required constant attention. Ryan found himself functioning on very little sleep, getting up multiple times each night to help Maya with feedings, to change diapers, to walk the floor with a crying infant. But despite the exhaustion, Ryan had never been happier. Watching Maya with their son, seeing the tender way she cared for him, the songs she sang in Apache as she rocked him to sleep, filled Ryan with a contentment he had not known was possible. This was what he had been searching for all his life. This sense of family, of belonging, of purpose. In June, Ryan had to make another trip to Columbus for supplies. He had been avoiding the town as much as possible, but there were things they needed that could only be bought there. He left Maya and Robert at home, promising to be back before dark. Columbus had not changed, still the same dusty collection of buildings baking in the summer heat. Ryan went to the general store, keeping his head down and moving quickly. David Cooper greeted him warmly and helped him gather what he needed. "Heard you and your wife had a baby," David said. "Congratulations. Thank you, a boy. His name is Robert." "That is wonderful." David lowered his voice. "Things have been quiet here since the fire. I think maybe Carl and his friends got scared after the sheriff talked to them. They have been keeping their distance." "That is good to hear." As Ryan was loading his purchases onto his horse, he heard a voice behind him. Well, if it is not Ryan Beck. He turned to find Mrs. Patterson standing there, her expression as cold as ever. But she was not alone. Beside her was a younger woman, perhaps in her 30s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Mrs. Patterson," Ryan said neutrally. "This is my daughter, Elizabeth," Mrs. Patterson said stiffly. "She has been visiting from Santa Fe. She wanted to meet the man who has caused such a scandal in our town." Elizabeth stepped forward, extending her hand. "It is nice to meet you, Mr. Beck. I have heard a great deal about you." Ryan shook her hand cautiously. "I am sure you have." "My mother disapproves of your marriage," Elizabeth said bluntly. "But I am not my mother. I think what you have done, marrying the woman you love despite the opposition you faced, took courage. And I wanted to tell you that not everyone in this territory shares my mother's narrow views." Mrs. Patterson looked scandalized. "Elizabeth, it is true, Mother, and you know it. The world is changing whether you like it or not. People like Mr. Beck and his wife are the future. We can either accept that gracefully or we can become bitter and isolated. I know which I choose." Ryan found himself warming to Elizabeth despite himself. "Thank you for saying that, Mrs. Miller. It means a great deal." "It is Mrs. Patterson, actually. I took back my maiden name after my husband died." Elizabeth smiled. "I hope you and your family will be very happy together." As Ryan rode back to the ranch, he thought about the encounter. Maybe things were slowly changing. Maybe with time acceptance would come. It was a hopeful thought. When he arrived home, he found Maya sitting on the porch, Robert sleeping peacefully in her arms. She looked up as Ryan approached, and the smile she gave him made his heart skip. "Welcome home," she said. Ryan dismounted and sat beside her, leaning over to kiss her forehead and then his son's. "It is good to be home. How was town?" Ryan told her about his encounter with Elizabeth Patterson, and Maya listened thoughtfully. "Change comes slowly," she said. "But it does come. Maybe by the time Robert is grown, things will be different. Maybe he will not face the same prejudice we have faced." "I hope so," Ryan said. "He deserves a better world." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the desert, their son sleeping between them. This, Ryan thought, was everything. This simple moment of peace and love and family. Everything he had ever wanted was right here. The years that followed were good ones. Robert grew into a bright, energetic boy with his mother's dark eyes and his father's stubborn streak. He learned both English and Apache, moving easily between the two languages. Nashoda visited regularly, teaching his nephew Apache customs and skills. While Ryan taught him reading and ranching when Robert was 3, Maya became pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was easier, and when the baby came, it was a girl. They named her Rachel, with the Apache name Ama, meaning water, because she was born during a rare summer rain that broke a long drought. Rachel was quieter than her brother, more thoughtful, but she had a fierce independence that reminded Ryan of Maya. As the children grew, the ranch grew too. Ryan expanded his herd, built additional structures, and slowly but surely established himself as a successful rancher in the territory. The hostility from Columbus never entirely went away, but it diminished over time. Some people remained stubbornly prejudiced, but others began to soften. David Cooper became a genuine friend, visiting the ranch occasionally and always treating Maya with respect. Elizabeth Patterson, who had moved back to Columbus to care for her aging mother, became an unexpected ally, speaking up for the Beck family whenever gossip arose. When Robert was 6 and Rachel was 3, Maya became pregnant a third time. Ryan was overjoyed at the prospect of another child, but Maya was more cautious. "I am older now," she said. "This pregnancy feels different, harder." Ryan insisted she rest more, taking on extra work himself to lighten her load. But Maya was stubborn, insisting on maintaining her routines. When the baby finally came, it was another boy, born small and struggling to breathe. For the first week of his life, Ryan and Maya were terrified they would lose him. They named him Thomas, with the Apache name Keel, meaning sparrow hawk, hoping the name would give him strength. Slowly, painfully slowly, Thomas grew stronger. He would never be as robust as his siblings, but he survived, and that was what mattered. As the children grew, Ryan and Maya made sure they understood both sides of their heritage. They celebrated both Christian and Apache traditions. The children learned to ride and rope cattle, but also to track and read the signs of the desert. They attended the small school that had been established in Columbus, but also learned from Nashoda and the other Apache who visited the ranch. It was not always easy. Robert, especially, struggled with his identity as he got older, feeling caught between two worlds and not fully belonging to either. He faced teasing at school from white children who called him a half-breed, and he sometimes faced skepticism from Apache youth who saw him as too white. But Ryan and Maya worked hard to help their children navigate these challenges. They taught them to be proud of who they were, to see their mixed heritage as a strength rather than a weakness. They taught them to stand up for themselves, but also to choose their battles wisely. One day, when Robert was 10, he came home from school with a bloody nose and torn clothes. Ryan found him sitting behind the barn, trying to clean himself up before his mother saw. "What happened?" Ryan asked, kneeling beside his son. "Some boys at school," Robert said, not meeting his father's eyes. "They were saying things about Ma, saying she was a savage, saying terrible things. I could not let them talk about her like that, so I hit Billy Thompson. Then his friends jumped in and it was 3 against 1. Ryan felt a mix of pride and concern. "You should not fight, Robert. Violence is not the answer." But they were saying things about Ma. What was I supposed to do? Just let them? You defend your mother with your actions by being a good person who makes her proud. Fighting those boys did not change their minds about your mother. It probably just confirmed their prejudices. Robert looked miserable. I hate it, Pa. I hate how people look at us. I hate that Ma cannot come to town without people whispering. I hate that Rachel comes home crying because the other girls will not play with her because she is half Apache. Why can we not just be a normal family? Ryan pulled his son close. We are a normal family, Robert. We love each other, we take care of each other, and we work hard. That is what makes a family normal. The rest is just noise. But the noise hurts. I know it does. And I am sorry you have to deal with that, but listen to me. Your mother is the bravest, strongest, most incredible woman I have ever known. She left everything she knew to build a life with me. She faces prejudice and hatred every day, but she never lets it break her. You come from that strength, Robert. You and your siblings. You are proof that love can overcome hate, that different peoples can come together and create something beautiful. That is not nothing. That is extraordinary. Robert was quiet for a long moment. Do you really think it will get better? That someday people will not care that Ma is Apache and you are white? I do, Ryan said. It is already better than it was 10 years ago when your mother and I got married, and it will be even better 10 years from now. Change is slow, but it is happening. You just have to be patient and keep being the good person I know you are. The conversation seemed to help Robert, and over time, he developed a thick skin for the prejudice he faced. He grew into a fine young man, tall and strong like his father, with his mother's intelligence and grace. Rachel, too, blossomed, becoming a beautiful and spirited girl who refused to let anyone make her feel ashamed of who she was. And Thomas, despite his rough start, grew into a thoughtful, kind boy with a gift for words and a love of learning. As the years passed, Ryan and Maya watched their children grow with pride and wonder. The ranch continued to prosper, becoming one of the most successful in the area. Ryan's reputation as a fair dealer and a hard worker earned him respect, even from those who still disapproved of his marriage. When Robert turned 18, he announced that he wanted to go to college. He had heard about a school in Santa Fe that accepted students of all backgrounds, and he wanted to study law. I want to help people like us, he told his parents. Mixed families who face discrimination. Apache people who are cheated by traders or pushed off their land. I want to use the law to make things fairer. Ryan and Maya were immensely proud, and they used their savings to send Robert to school. It was hard to see him go, but they knew it was important. Rachel, at 15, announced that she wanted to be a teacher. She had been helping at the Columbus School, working with younger children, and had discovered a passion for education. So many Apache children never get a chance to learn, she said. I want to change that. I want to teach children from both cultures, help them understand each other. Thomas, at 12, was still finding his way, but he showed a talent for art, spending hours drawing the desert landscape and the animals that lived there. On a warm evening in June of 1898, Ryan and Maya sat on their porch, watching the sun set. They were in their 40s now, their hair showing threads of gray, their faces lined with the years of hard work and southwestern sun. But they were still deeply in love, still partners in every sense of the word. 20 years, Maya said softly. It has been 20 years since you found me in the desert. Best day of my life, Ryan said, taking her hand. Well, one of the best. There have been a lot of good days since then. Do you ever regret it, marrying me, all the hardship it brought? Ryan turned to look at her, surprised. Never. Not for 1 second. You and our children are the greatest blessings of my life. Whatever hardship we faced was worth it 1,000 times over. Maya smiled and leaned her head on his shoulder. I feel the same way. When I think about how close I came to dying in that desert, and how you saved me, it feels like fate, like we were meant to find each other. I believe we were, Ryan said, kissing the top of her head. As they sat there, they saw riders approaching. Ryan tensed instinctively, old habits dying hard, but then he recognized them. It was Neshoda, now in his 50s but still riding with the easy grace of a much younger man, and with him were several other Apache men and women. Ryan and Maya stood to greet them, and Neshoda dismounted with a smile. "Brother," he said to Ryan, using the Apache word. Over the years they had become true friends and family. "Neshoda, what brings you here?" "Good news," Neshoda said, his eyes shining. "The government is finally recognizing Apache land rights in certain areas. It is not perfect, it is not what we should have, but it is something, and part of it is because of your son. Robert wrote letters, made arguments, spoke to officials. He is making a difference." Pride swelled in Ryan's chest. "That is wonderful news." "We are having a gathering to celebrate," Neshoda continued. "Both Apache and white people who have supported us. We would like you and your family to come. It is time to celebrate what we have built together, what we have overcome." Ryan looked at Maya and she nodded, smiling. "We would be honored," Ryan said. The gathering took place 2 weeks later, in a meadow near the border where Apache and settlers came together in peace. There were speeches and songs, food and dancing. Robert was there, home from college, and he spoke about the work that was being done to protect rights and promote understanding. Rachel sang, her beautiful voice carrying across the meadow, bringing tears to many eyes. Thomas displayed his artwork, drawings that captured the beauty of both Apache and settler life. As Ryan stood there, surrounded by his family and friends, both Apache and white, he felt a sense of completion. The journey had been long and hard, filled with challenges and heartache, but also with love and joy and triumph. He thought back to that day 20 years ago when he had found Maya collapsed in the desert. If someone had told him then what would follow, the love he would find, the family he would build, the bridges he would help create between two worlds, he would not have believed them. But it had all happened, and it had been extraordinary. Maya came to stand beside him, slipping her hand into his. She looked around at the gathering, at their children laughing with friends, at Apache and white people talking and sharing food, and she smiled. "We did this," she said softly. "Together we helped create this." "We did," Ryan agreed, "and it is just the beginning. Our children will carry it forward, and their children after them. Things will keep getting better." As the sun set over the meadow, painting the sky in brilliant shades of gold and crimson, Ryan pulled Maya close and kissed her. Around them, the sound of laughter and music filled the air, a celebration of love conquering hate, of unity overcoming division, of hope for a better future. The years continued to pass, bringing both joys and sorrows as all lives do. When Ryan was 50, his horse threw him while working cattle, and he broke his leg badly. Maya nursed him through weeks of painful recovery, sitting beside his bed and telling him stories, reminding him of all they had been through and overcome. When Maya was 52, she fell ill with a fever that terrified Ryan, bringing back memories of how they had met. But she recovered, stubborn and strong as always, refusing to let illness defeat her. Robert graduated from college and did indeed become a lawyer, fighting for the rights of Apache people and mixed families throughout New Mexico. He married a woman named Sarah, a teacher from Santa Fe, and they had 3 children. Rachel fulfilled her dream of becoming a teacher, opening a school that welcomed children from all backgrounds. She married an Apache man named Kiyoshi, and they had 2 daughters. Thomas became an artist whose work was eventually displayed in galleries throughout the territory and beyond. His paintings captured the beauty and struggle of life in the Southwest, bridging cultures through art. He never married, preferring the solitary life of an artist, but he remained close to his family. As Ryan and Maya entered their 60s, they slowed down, turning over much of the running of the ranch to their children and grandchildren. But they still spent their evenings on the porch, watching the sunset, holding hands and talking about their lives. On a spring evening in 1913, Ryan was 71 and Maya was 69. They sat on their familiar porch, wrapped in blankets against the cool air. The ranch had been in the family for nearly 4 decades now, and it showed the love and care of generations. The house had been expanded several times to accommodate visiting children and grandchildren. The barn was new and sturdy. Gardens bloomed with flowers and vegetables. Corrals held horses and cattle. "I have been thinking," Maya said, "about what comes after." "After what?" Ryan asked. "After us. After our time is done. I wonder if we have done enough, if we have made enough of a difference." Ryan looked at his wife, still beautiful to him after all these years, and smiled. "Look around you, Maya. Our 3 children are out there in the world making it better. Robert is protecting people through the law. Rachel is educating children and breaking down barriers. Thomas is showing people beauty and truth through his art. We have 7 grandchildren who are growing up without the prejudice we faced, who see nothing strange about being part of 2 cultures. The ranch we built together supports not just our family, but several families who work here. This meadow where we sit has seen gatherings of Apache and white people celebrating together. If that is not making a difference, I do not know what is." Maya smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "You always know what to say to make me feel better. I have had a lot of practice over the years." Ryan pulled her close. "Maya Tala Beck, you are the love of my life. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Whatever time we have left, whether it is days or decades, I want to spend every moment with you." "And I with you," Maya said, kissing him gently. "You saved my life that day in the desert, Ryan, but you did more than that. You gave me a life worth living. You gave me love and family and purpose. You gave me everything." They sat together as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. 2 people who had defied the odds, who had built something beautiful out of hardship, who had shown that love could indeed conquer hate. Their story was not just their own, but belonged to all the people they had touched, all the lives they had changed, all the barriers they had broken down. Years later, when both Ryan and Maya had passed away peacefully in their sleep within months of each other, their children gathered at the ranch to honor them. Robert spoke of their courage. Rachel spoke of their love. Thomas showed a painting he had made of them sitting on the porch, hands clasped, watching the sunset together. Their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, numbering more than a dozen by then, ran through the ranch house where Ryan and Maya had built their life. They played without thought to whether they were more Apache or more white. They were simply family, simply human, simply loved. And in the town of Columbus, New Mexico, where once there had been hostility and prejudice, the story of Ryan Beck and Maya Tala Beck was told as an example of what was possible when people chose love over hate, when they had the courage to build bridges instead of walls, when they believed that 2 different worlds could become one family. The ranch continued to operate under the care of their descendants, a living testament to what Ryan and Maya had built together. The house, expanded and improved over the generations, still had the original adobe walls that Ryan had built as a young man. The porch where Ryan and Maya had spent so many evenings still offered a perfect view of the sunset. And carved into a wooden beam above the front door were the words that Robert had placed there after his parents died. Love conquers all. It was a simple message, but it was the truth that Ryan and Maya had lived every day of their marriage. From that moment when Ryan found Maya collapsed in the desert and chose to save her, to the morning when Apache warriors surrounded his ranch, and he chose to face them with honesty and courage, to the day they married despite all opposition, to the years they spent building a family and a future together, they had proven that love was stronger than prejudice, more powerful than hate, more enduring than any obstacle. Their story became legend in New Mexico, passed down through generations, told to children as an example of courage and commitment. Schools taught about them as pioneers not just of the land, but of understanding and acceptance. Historians wrote about them as symbols of a changing time, when the old divisions began to heal and new possibilities emerged. But to their family, Ryan and Maya were simply grandfather and grandmother, beloved and remembered, whose love story began with a simple act of kindness in the desert and grew into something that changed the world around them. Every sunset that painted the New Mexico sky in gold and crimson was a reminder of them, of the evenings they spent together, of the love that sustained them through everything. The Beck Ranch stood as a monument to that love, a place where Apache and white people had always been welcome, where children of mixed heritage grew up proud and strong, where the dream of two worlds becoming one family had been realized not just once, but generation after generation. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, when the wind blew just right across the desert, those who loved and remembered Ryan and Maya swore they could feel their presence, still sitting on that porch, still holding hands, still watching the sunset together, their love as eternal and unchanging as the land itself. The story of the cowboy who gave water to a collapsed Apache woman, whose warriors surrounded his ranch at first light, was ultimately a story of transformation. What began in fear and suspicion became understanding. What started as a desperate act of survival became the greatest love story the territory had ever known. And what could have been tragedy became instead a triumph, not just for two people, but for everyone their lives touched. Ryan Beck and Maya Beck had lived fully, loved completely, and left behind a legacy that would endure for generations. They had faced every challenge together, overcome every obstacle, and proved that when two people truly love each other, nothing can stand against them. Not prejudice, not fear, not even the vast cultural divide that separated their worlds. In the end, they created not just a family but a future. And that future, bright with promise and possibility, was the greatest gift they could have given to the world they left behind.